Hello and welcome to Cielo Costa's video series on digital transformation in the built environment. We talk to industry leaders and experts about some of the unique challenges in the sector, from legacy digital and physical infrastructure to complex regulatory requirements to the many AI, software and PropTech solutions that are on offer. If you work in the built environment and are looking for some pointers and the perspective of your peers, this might be for you. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.
I'm pleased today to be joined by Maria Wiednar, founder and CEO of Cambridge Finance, working at the intersection of real estate finance and more recently technology. Maria's an expert in real estate financial modeling, and I think you also speak 5 languages. Is that right? Is that right, Maria?
Yeah, though my Finnish is very rusty these days, but I did like A levels in Finnish, so you should be good. But it's not. Yeah.
Well, you know, five languages is still very impressive, and 4 more than I speak, to be honest. I'm sure your Finnish is much better than mine. But
and I also speak the language of Excel, so don't forget.
Yeah, critical for today's conversation, definitely.
Exactly.
But before we get into financial modelling and Cambridge Finance, it'd be great just to hear a little bit about yourself and your background and your current role and where you came from to get here.
Thank you so much, Ollie, for inviting me to speak here. So my background is, as you think about like the 5 language that I speak, is quite international, but my career has been pretty much in the UK. Even though now I have clients globally, I travel a lot. But in terms of background, I am from a country you would never imagine, which is Brazil. And that's where I did a bachelor's degree in business administration. But before that, as I mentioned, I'm in the A-level side. I did study in Finland, so that's why I speak Finnish. And then I went back to Brazil, and then I did a bachelor's in business administration. And then once I finished that, I did a master's of environmental economics in Vienna, Austria. That's another language to add up, the German one, the Austrian German. And then I moved after that. I had a very short stint at the United Nations at the time in Vienna. And then I moved to the UK when 20 years ago already. So yeah, it's been and then from first I started in the financial market. So I was working for the Financial Times, London Stock Exchange, and I just published a book. And then yesterday I also put a post in there with the book, and then I didn't see it. And then it was my colleague Alf who was it was the time that I really started doing Excel modeling, because that was the joke was that we were running the London Stock Exchange on spreadsheets. So that's how I started, really. And then I was working there, and then I did some other indices there, setting up the fixed income index, the bond index. And then eventually I started working on the UK commercial property index. And then from there, I went to structuring products for a hedge fund that were using the index as a way to structure the returns of the product. That's what I did. That's how I started really in real estate, from a very quantitative point of view, like calculating an index, structuring notes, and doing the analysis, and knowing how much we're gonna pay for the investors on those notes, and so on and so forth. So that was how I started in real estate. And then from there, there was a lot of mortgage-backed securities as well. And then that was the time that we had a 2008-2009 crisis, the global financial crisis. And then the derivatives that were called didn't do very well, and then I had to close the fund and run for the hills. But that wasn't my fault. I always say like because it's a little bit like it felt a little bit like The Big Short. I don't know if you've seen the movie
I have,
The Big
yeah, yeah,
Short. Yeah, because that was the idea of derivatives. Like everybody was talking about it. Like there were thousands of people, and then the next year there's nobody. There's just a guy
yeah.
there in the
You weren't alone, were you, in that
yeah,
situation?
yeah. And then
Yeah.
that was like, oh, but it wasn't my fault of the financial crisis.
No, no.
But I was exactly where it all like kind of blew up, like
Yeah,
the derivatives, the mortgage-backed security. We weren't exposed to the US, but it was the derivative side, the mortgage-backed security, the structured notes, and
yeah,
so on, because there was a lot of leverage in there. But anyway, so
yeah,
then what is just to the point that then I went to do a master's in Cambridge.
yeah,
And that's why the name of the company is Cambridge Finance, because that's how I started really. I was living in Cambridge at the time when I
yeah,
set up the company, and then from there I started building models, and I came back to practice as well. Like I was an equity analyst, I was a sustainability investment analyst as well. Like as I was looking a lot into green energy and solar panels and so on. So
yeah,
yeah, my background is, but then I set up Cambridge Finance already 9 years ago,
yeah,
and that's when the fund started really. So
yeah,
I've been on Cambridge Finance for 9 years. We are built we the our forte, like our core business is pretty much like building financial models or using financial models to give advice to investors. So that's why, like when I am in a transaction, it's pretty much like like I do have a very quantitative background. So when we are, talking to clients, it is pretty much on this on the basis that, like this is what you will get, or we can't guarantee returns, but at least it gives people a little like more comfort than just saying, like the land value is going to go up or the house prices are going to go up. Like it just to
yeah,
give people a little bit more basis on to make a decision. So
yeah,
that's what we do, like a very, very quantitative analysis on that. And then I
yeah,
do a lot of training as well. So
yeah,
that's one thing that I would like people, especially in the times of AI. I think like everything should be, it's all about like education. I like the more I look into it, the more I think, everybody should be trained in AI, should be trained, like in financial mathematics, because AI
yeah,
will be able to do everything for you. So
yeah,
if you don't understand really what AI is doing, or why it's doing, or
yeah,
like if you don't have the critical thinking, because that's what we also spoke about, like if you just do what the machine can do, like it's not good enough.
you get left behind. Yeah, exactly. And we'll
Mhm.
talk more about AI in a minute, I think. But in terms of the just who are your key customers in terms of who you talk to about financial modeling?
Yeah, it's very broad. So if it is very broad, then it means that it's it's like you're in marketing. If it's everybody, it means it's nobody. But
Yeah,
the idea is that we train people that are invested, I would say, in real estate.
yeah,
So it's either on the lending side. So we have banks. We have nowadays there's a lot of like private debt providers, the mezzanine funds, for example, and so on, like the kind of crowdfunding or this world.
yeah,
But we also have on the equity side, we do work with the private equity, but we also work with the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world as well. So
yeah,
it's pretty much people that have investments in real estate, either from the equity side or on the debt side.
yeah,
We sometimes in terms of the building models and creating somehow a system for people to analyze investments, tend to be the smaller developers, not smaller because some are pretty big already, but people that would like to put like a little bit more quantitative analysis in place, because normally they rely a lot on the brokerage side to tell them about the land value or so on, but they want to become more sophisticated in the sense that to have their own systems to analyze the deals and analyze the investments they're going to make, instead of just relying on third party to make the decisions for them. So that's normally where I get into.
Yeah, makes sense. Obviously, a lot of the work in terms of financial modeling is done in Excel still, and Excel is a very well-established platform, and in technology and software, often solutions are built that replace what's traditionally been done in Excel and bring it into an app or SaaS solution, for example.
Exactly.
But that's not necessarily the case in terms of where you're working. You're still seeing, I think, Excel is a critical platform that obviously bring AI potentially into that. But is it right to say that you still see a current and future use case for Excel as a really important part of financial modeling?
Well, this is always what people ask me, like, why don't I can like, why do you still use Excel when you can use, like, you can start using Python, you can start using or you can, I'm starting to model in Python, in C++, but the only difference is that when I am in this kind of transactions, for example, that I need to buy, sell, give advice, or property is very different than, like, each transaction is different. It like the structuring deals are very different. Sometimes you use only debt, sometimes you use only, like, not only debt, but like sometimes you use debt and equity, sometimes you buy the land with equity, sometimes you have just like people are going to buy an option, and then so it's very nuanced when you're actually like doing the transactions and actually structuring deals, and you need to be very creative and you need to be very quick. In those cases, you can't go back on the back end and say, okay, I need to update this line of code. It doesn't work like this, but in Excel it does work like this. Excel, it gives you the flexibility. So when I have to analyze deals, and it has to be in Excel, because I know I need to be quick and I need to be creative.
Yeah.
Once everything is done in terms of, like, this is only a process now, then the software is a good point. Then I tell my clients, then, like, okay, you've created a system. This is how you're going to analyze your deals anyways. Like, for example, valuers, they use a lot of them use Argus. So why can't they do this? Because the way they approach valuation is always the same, but you can't use this approach when you're doing the transactions, because if you're, for example, an investor and you're just going to buy the same type of building, and because normally what people think is like, okay, if I'm going to invest in something, it's because I want to add value. Unless it's an investor that just wants to park the money somewhere, it doesn't matter. But if you are like a value-add investor, for example, and then you say, okay, I need to add value, which most of private equity companies are like this. I need to add value. How do I add value? You're not going to add value if you do the same as the next person, right? And the only way to add value is if you know, like, well, okay, that's how I'm going to structure. I'm going to sell a little bit before, I'm going to sell a little bit in, I'm going to put a capex here, I'm going to refurbish this area, I'm going to demolish that area. And this flexibility and this creativity, it can't be in a SaaS, because SaaS only works if you have like the same process all the time. So that's why I do a lot of stuff in Excel, because that's the early stage. Like, it's not the early stage of acquisition, but it's the time that you need to be more creative with your investments.
Yeah. And is in terms of when you're bringing in AI now within that process, is that actually helping at that early stage in terms of information gathering and analysis with Excel, or is it on the generative AI side in terms of your outputs? Like, where would you say AI has come in to help within that process of financial modeling?
Everywhere.
Okay.
So it's the only thing is that ChatGPT is very good. It will create already all the scripts for you already in Python.
Okay.
Like, and it's perfect. Like it
Yeah.
will give you the script, and then and the notations are great, and then you understand. If you understand enough, you can change it. Or if you don't understand, it doesn't matter, because it's gonna give you the correct code if you give them the answer. It's a lot more practical using AI. But you can't just tell Excel to ChatGPT to say, okay, download a file for me with these characteristics. Even though my custom ChatGPT, I'm training it to download my models from there. So it could be that one time, like if you use my GPT, that you can download models like single let hotels, whatever it is. But we're not there yet. I'm still training it. But you have to. But then what you need to understand is that it will give you some, like you can ask for a formula, and then it will say, okay, use this formula. And it works most of the time. So it just takes some time, but so building the formulas is a lot quicker now with Excel, especially ChatGPT. I tried Perplexity, I tried Copilot. Never use Copilot. It's a shame though, because everybody wants to use Copilot because it's there, it's in Excel. It would have been so much easier if it worked.
So it's like a natural integration.
But it's just not there yet. I try because everybody keep telling me, like, it's a lot easier to, if everything is already, because there's always, I don't know if you're going to touch about it, there's always the problem of security. Everybody's worried about, like, I'm going to put my data into ChatGPT, but they're okay to put the data in a Gmail, Outlook, on the cloud, what's the
difference?
What's the difference? So that's and then Copilot, people think like, okay, if I write a letter in Word, and if I just put the letter into Copilot to do the proof editing for me, I feel safe because I was in Word anyways. Whereas if they were to put in ChatGPT, they will always think, oh, but I'm putting confidential information in ChatGPT. But they think like on Copilot, because it's already in Word, that they are fine to do this. So Copilot is still not there, but I am trialing it and seeing where it works, where it doesn't. But in any case, what was the question again?
It was really about where AI comes in.
Comes in for me. Yes. So the formula building is good for me. Giving ideas as well for models that I should be creating, or what kind of like inputs are better. It has become a great companion in that sense of like improving my models or building new models and so on. And then the other thing is like the risk analysis is so much quicker, because then you can just do like, okay, build a sensitivity analysis, run a scenario analysis, and give like already good charts. So that's really good as well.
And you're seeing good accuracy, particularly from ChatGPT then, in terms of you're not having to validate and double check that the output's too heavily, or now that you've done it enough, you can trust ChatGPT to good work. Is
Never
that right?
trusted ChatGPT.
No. Okay.
Never trust any of those.
But it is still a time saver, because obviously it's still worth using it, but you have to just do a lot of checking.
You have to check. Of course you have to check. You have to, because that's always when I say like because you're gonna speak with Nico, and because his view is like, okay, nobody needs to do Excel anymore, because you can just put that on you can put a tenancy schedule on ChatGPT. Out comes the DCF, but when it comes out the DCF, it will not know where the numbers are coming from. So
it's DCF, sorry,
a discounted cash flow. Like that's how you analyze investments. So you're using discounted cash flow. Then when it comes back to you, it's gonna give you already, but you just need trust it because you don't know where the numbers are coming from. And it might be that you put the question one time, then you're gonna come and answer first time, and then you put another time, you're gonna come another answer the second time, and you can have different answers, right? Like sometimes you buy the asset, sometimes you don't buy it, and then in this case you can't just trust the AI to do it, and that's why you need either a software that that has been checked, and then that it works, like the black box, but that there is a process behind or something, I don't know, but or there is an Excel that you can audit there and then where the numbers are coming from. So
you look at the raw data.
You look at the raw data and everything. So that's the only thing about like ChatGPT is like, if you don't care where like how it was made, and that you're gonna have different answers different times, then it's okay to use it. But if you want accuracy, then you have to build your own AI, so to say. You use your models.
It's interesting. I mean, I guess thinking about it on a human level, if someone you haven't met before, then you don't necessarily trust them to start with. The trust builds because they demonstrate through their actions and through what they do that you can actually trust them, and so you can put more trust in them, and you have to check less second, third, fourth time and so on, because they build it. Is it similar with ChatGPT in terms of you're not getting incremental time savings by going, okay, you've done this work and I've seen that you got the spot on, or 99.9% correct, so that's good enough, I can now trust you more and have to check less? Or are you still having to check just as much now as you were on the first iteration, if you like? Is there an incremental growth in trust due to the quality of the output of the work that means you're saving more and more time?
I think I trust the ChatGPT, or nowadays there's DeepSeek, who is doing a great job as well. It's just like, for me, I can't just go in front of my client and say, the IR is 8.5% because ChatGPT told me so, and this is the cash flow. I mean, it does. I know people do it because people use Argus, or use another software, and then they present as if it was like they understood what they were talking about. But most of that, but like in my level, you can't do this. You can't just present a software that was like the output from a software and then do it. Like you need to have a lot more reasoning behind, and I can only have reasoning if I understand everything. So it might be that ChatGPT gives already a good enough answer, but would I put all my deals on through ChatGPT and make reason advice from the ChatGPT outputs? I don't think I can. I mean, I guess people would do it, but I don't think I can do it.
Fair enough. Do you would you see a sort of SaaS style solution emerging in financial modeling, or are there so many variables? Because SaaS is more typically out of the box, really, and it's like a sort of fairly fixed product offering.
There are already a lot of SaaS out there.
Is there in financial modeling?
In real estate financial modeling,
But that varies from what you do at Cambridge Finance. Is that correct? In terms of because the SaaS that there is the black box, so it's just the same as putting things in ChatGPT. Right. So you just put like, okay, this is the rent, this is the forecast, the rent, this is going to be the growth, this is going to be the tenancy schedule, this is my assumption for vacancy, this is my assumption for OPEX, CAPEX, and so on and so forth. So then you do this, put your assumptions there. So when people say like in real estate we use AI, well, we have been using all the SaaS for a long time now. So it is the same thing. And is the challenge with that the sort of rigidity of SaaS, or is it the trustworthiness of the data, or that's the challenge? Because with SaaS, obviously, you don't get the insight and you can't look at the raw data so easily as you can with Excel. So
it's mainly because deals in real estate are massive. Like our deals tend to be like 100 million pounds. Like the minimum that people go, like especially in the commercial world, is at least 10 million and so on. So will you make these decisions based on what you think, like on this kind of like black box that you don't know where it's gonna coming from. You don't know how you're actually like doing the capex. You don't know how you're getting your tenants in, when you're getting the tenants in, and so on. So that's why it's great for valuations. That's perfectly acceptable. Or if you're doing asset management, that is like it's always the same, and you have a process already in place. Then I always say SaaS is the best solution, and you have to do that. You don't want to, because Excel has its problems, because Excel is, like a lot of problems. You are a Microsoft partner, like that it gets pretty big. You don't know what is the version that it was the last save. And then it's low, and so on and so forth. But when you are building the IP, you need to start. You're not going to build an IP on the software. You need to build your strategy on Excel, because it's like writing a book. Like you just write and you open Word.
That's it. And I think you mentioned a good point around multiple versions, user permissions. Those, when there is the flexibility of something like Excel, and a lot of Microsoft products actually have that flexibility, that the governance and control becomes challenging the more users you have. Is that a challenge for you guys or not? And I guess, is AI really there working for you, or do you have a large team of people who are working together? Do you have any challenges around that sort of governance side of things when you're working in Excel together, or are you just quite small, tight-knit teams, so that's not so much of a problem?
So normally we have I work with other people, like we own our projects. So it's like it's the whole. It's not like software that it can be agile. And then you can have like different people working in different places, right?
I see.
Like building your Excel, it makes more sense, because when I build Excel, it's not because I build Excel. I build a business plan. Because it's the business plan of buying, holding an asset, selling, or developing the site, building shopping center, getting people through the door, getting, it's a business plan quantitatively. So this business plan, of course, is going to have like different people doing the input, but it's like me doing this business plan, and I have to make sure that I understand the business plan, because that's going to be my advice. This is how I'm going to be comfortable in front of any of my clients and say, you need to, this is your quantitatively, this is what is going to happen. With, of course, then we will run the risk analysis, we run scenarios, we think about scenarios, like what is the, because we don't know, because when we're doing financial models, it is a forecast, right? It is the forecast of this business plan. So you need to think about the scenarios as well. Like, of course, we are always very, like if you're buying something, you need to be positive, otherwise you don't buy anything. But you have to, but that's what, when I get hired, because I need, people to think that it's not always the good days, that you need to plan for the bad days as well. A lot of, you need to price in. A lot of lenders that I work with, there's like, there's a delay in the project, but you need to price in the delays, because that's inevitable. In real estate is always and you shouldn't panic. But if you do this quantitative analysis beforehand, you're not gonna panic, because you have already done this.
It's de-risking to an extent, isn't it? I guess. And then, is AI helpful? Actually, talking to Nico, he was like looking at how AI can help you to build really engaging interactive reports and even avatars that present, and just start with your raw data from Excel. And like historically, it was like you use that to try and create a PowerPoint slide or something in a very basic way. But now there's a lot more you can do to actually bring an Excel data to life quite quickly. Is that something that you've started experimenting with?
That's the beauty of AI, is the generative part. Predictive AI, I'm still, it can't really predict. Like, it can predict statistical models, which is what what Nico does. Like Nico does modeling, but he does like on a statistic basis. And in property, especially the area I work with, we don't have a lot of data to put in as a statistical models, right? So what we do, like we forecast cash flows based on the information that we have now. So that's our data, that the data point. So in this, like for predictive modeling for Nico, I think it is still, I think he likes it because it's on the statistical basis. My predictive model from where I sit now is not very predictive, because it is this case of, you know, like you have to do tenancy schedule and so on and so forth. But that's the beauty of AI, is the generative AI, because, you know, writing text, especially for me, that I, you know, my English is my fourth language.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I only learned English when I was like 18 years old. So
really?
I learned Finnish before I learned English.
Wow.
So then that's so it is easier to just, you know, tell ChatGPT, write the report. And then surveying reports, they all look the same. You have the same things. You have to say the same thing. You have to name the same act. You have to name the same case studies.
Yeah. That's quite well suited to AI then. It's fairly similar structures and repetition. I guess last question, looking forward to 2025, we're like a month in now. How do you see the year ahead panning out? What other big changes could you see coming from your point of view and within your industry this year?
In terms of technology?
I guess particularly technology,
Yeah, I think the adoption of AI needs to be the forefront of everybody's mind, because that's the idea of being, you know, being more efficient, because you will need to, because you can keep doing this kind of like you know, jobs that would be replaced by AI, just because you have a problem with the, you know, like the security of things. Like this is the year that you need to clarify those things and see what can go and cannot go on ChatGPT. But even from an automation perspective, it's so much easier. Like you can automate so much. Like for you, like in terms of SaaS, it can, you know, like you can start putting Python everywhere. You can start putting like even me, like I can start automating everything, you know, like I can go and get a comparable table on the internet and then put in, like there's so much that it can do for the automation that it wasn't there before. You know, it would take forever to find the comparables. Now, like it's it can create like this low hanging fruits like very quickly.
That's it. I think sometimes it's just small steps, isn't it? Look at automations. Don't be overawed by everything that AI could potentially do, and try and find some specific use cases for saving time, doing things more efficiently, and just take it step by step. Trying to use it every day, and find
exactly.
a use for it.
Yeah, if your company allows you to, that's it.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, Maria, for your time. Appreciate it.